thank you very much for the introductions. Let me get into the session. First of all, let me briefly introduce ourselves. We are working for the SOC of IIJ, and now we're mainly responsible for the analysis of malware. And first of all, let me talk about the background that motivates these investigations. And these cyber attacks, post-exploitation framework, are often used. That's reported, and the post-exploitation framework means that the tools and the methods in which the cyber attackers can use and their activities and compromise the system. For example, Cobalt Strike or PowerShell Empire. There are a lot of this and these framework, but many of them have their source code that made it open. And so sometimes it's used for the attack, but it's not, and included in the list of MITRE attack. And also, there's no analysis of indicator is not described in the MITRE attack. So this meant that although we know that it's used for the attack, or framework, but we don't have any good predictions of what kind of attack will be made with them. So that's why. So we think that we need to investigate about the technique and the frameworks which is not on the MITRE attack list. Attack tactics are 11 are these attack tactics. Today, I'd like to focus on execution and persistence this time. So this is the agenda today. First of all, we'd like to talk about now some of the methods and approaches that introduce it, which will easily be used and organized by the attack. And also based on that the individual indicator will be shared based on the source code. And today we'd like to introduce that the indicators and the Windows event log. So next, let me talk about what kind of investigation was done for in this framework. We use the C2 matrix. This is the tool and description service. When you use this, this is that the services in which the most information can be provided. So as of the end of December, 139 tools are posted. In this investigation, we find that about the 31 tools, the 22% of all are maliciously used. And further, 87%, that means 27 tools are made public in GitHub. That means that the tools that are made public are mainly used and often used for any malicious purposes. Next, we have chosen the framework based on these conditions. Number one, the source code is open. Number two is that now the malicious and examples and activity is confirmed, and the last of all, and more than 5 tactics are fulfilled. So as a result of that, these 10 frameworks is chosen. When I look at this, just like and about the familiar framework like an Empire, but also the Cursor, that's remote access tool with the derivative of the Cursor, or also for that now the Havoc, Sliver. That is based now and also appears in the report as the replacement of Cobalt Strike here. Let me talk about briefly explain about the framework. Now, in this framework, when it comes, this is about the list of versions, and we have investigated. So first of all, async cloud. Async cloud is for that is based on the Cursor, and from that's about the content injection, antivirus, and a disablement. These are all the additional features. Next, covenants. So this is about the multiple different launchers are owned, but a lot of that and many things are done by the sharp exploits and embedded. So also for the other and tools that use it for the module externally, but this framework, the developer, all the in-house developers, all these tools are they developed in-house by developers. Next is DC Lab. So the uniqueness of this is that it is based on the async cloud. So that additional feature is that the ransomware feature is also added. Next, Empire. This is about the PowerShell. It's called the PowerShell Empire. The uniqueness is that then the base is the agent can be implemented based on the launcher, and also for this they can expand the features with the module, and also last of all, Covenant is embedded. Next, the Havoc. Havoc means that when it is in the framework and the new one of the framework, and the beacon objective file is used for the implementations, and also it using the BOF, so it can be implemented in the threads, and they can evade the detections, and also for it can be available for extending the features with the module. Next, the codec. This is for most of the operations can be done by the Windows script host, so they can be done, and also for the SSR and TSK, and can be used on the safe communication. Next, Marlin. So this is by developed by the Go, and this can comply with the cross-platform, and also for it can use the module for the external tools, and they can extend the features. And next, the push C2. So this is that about a lot of the payload generation is available when this can comply with the Windows environment, but also the Mac OS, Linux, is also can be handled with this payload. Next, the Cursor. So this is about GUI. We can use the GUI, and they can use the UGI as the operations, and also there are a lot of the derivatives. And the remote access features are also available. Last was Sliver. So this is for that based on the Go and the development, so that it can be used in a cross-platform basis, and also C2 platform. It can use it in the DNS and MTLS, and also they can expand their features with the module, so that then a lot of that external module is used for the expanding and extending and enhancing the features. And now, so this is the mapping of the framework and the features. So we have chosen that the framework will have about 5 tactics. So there are all of them in the field like this, but is the lateral movements. It's not carried by the cursor, and also that this is the less fulfillment and the impact. So this is that. Now let me explain about there's no lateral movement in the cursor. First of all, for this lab is that's on. You have the remote desktop features, and for using the attack, so the remote desktop protocol is the technique used for the attack. So this can be classified in lateral movements. But on the other hand, so this is. But all these remote desktop features and owned by the lab is only for that, and now it does not function as a lateral movement. So that's why the remote access software, that is part of that command and control technique. It will be more best suited. That's why we have made that kind of matrix. Now that attack is updated on a daily basis. That's why, and so there's no such kind of technique there. So from now on, let me talk about the split intelligence and based on our investigation. First of all, execution. Execution technique, these are the 5. And first of all, Windows Commercial and the PowerShell framework. There are a lot of framework on this, but the native API to WMI for these are only limited. So that's for that the bottom 2 are these are the ones. So now out of this, the most of the framework, so I like to choose this one. This is owned by the most of the framework. First of all, let's start with the Windows Command Shell. The uses for this is the remote shell, the command execution, launcher executions. There are 3 types. After this is, and as for the indicator and the parent process and command line informations, it's explained with using the Windows event log. Now, so just for information, all the indicator information is needed some information audit. First of all, this is that the framework indicator, the list of indicators we have owned the remote shell features. The framework, there are 4 frameworks which own the remote shell. So first of all, this is cmd.exe that will be implemented by the child process, and that's also and it will be interactive mode is used for. So this it might be possible that it's a remote shell, and the top 3 are that is not written in the full pass in the command line. So that's why and CMD and only for that the option is added. So when it comes to async LUTs and the DC LUTs source code concerning these features, which check it out, and CMD alone is how to code it. So that's if it's in the cursor. Now the source code should be the same, but now if in case the option is even that and added to the CMD. So that's one in the indicator shown that the list before. So that's why when you check out the event code, so exactly the same contents of the source code is now recorded. Down here, So this is, let me just look at the new process name, but this time we use that 32-bit version async write agent for the pre-compiling. So that's why this is recorded at the sys.wo64. In the case of Corsa, it is about not only for the 32-bit version, but also 64-bit version is also there. So that's why, and the information, the other additional information is there. Next, let me talk about command execution. So there are three frameworks. We have this technique. Then first of all, the havoc. And this is the command line and an option /C. And this I have to start it and that the text string is recorded. You want to check the source code, and the variables, and you find that /C. This is alone is described. And when you trace that, when you trace the source code, that eventually that will find the created process with the Windows token line, the CDM line, that parameters are taken over.
So the string that starts with option C is recorded. Command line that starts with option can be used as an indicator of havoc. To add information in havoc, it has a prot create, which is the command to execute the command execution. So when you check the source code, because path is stored, so in event log, it's recorded as a normal command line. And when we look at the coadic, it has a parent process, 3 parent processes used. In command line, it has a long command line. That's the feature. Here, let's look at the behavior of the coadic. In coadic, it has 6 stages. From C2 server, agent is downloaded and executed. So it's a spec of coadic. Agent process is RunDL32, is SVR32, WMIC. So it's either one of the 3, stager and ager, and the process are put together in this table. When you look at this table, RunDL32 are often used. When we look at the source code, on the upper portion, this spec variable is being used. When you look at this variable, Windows command interpreter's path is set in this variable. Usually cld.exe is the path. When you do an echo command and when you specify command, it shows the path. And when we look at the source in fcmd, you can see the command used by attackers in F directory. The text path is set, which is used by coadic. So when you look at the event log, the parent process, as I explained, there are 3, one of the 3 processes that I explained. And when we look at the command line, comspec variable is being used. So original cmd.exe different from cmd.exe, and all the letters are in lowercase, and rest of it is the same as the source code. At the end, lastly, this is Marlene. When we look at the source code, the conspec variable, as I explained earlier, is being used. So the same event log system S in the system is the lowercase. That's the characteristic. Now, this is the agent execution framework having this technique. There are 2 frameworks having this technique. These 2 frameworks use batch file for agent execution, and cm.exe is executed at the same time. And both execute PowerShell in batch file. That's the common across the 2. This is the source code of batch file of Empire. When you look inside, PowerShell is being executed and it's hard-coded. When you look at the batch file itself, the script encoded and executed by the PowerShell, that you can see that. And when you decode the executed string, it's a script that download and execute the stager. So when you look at the event log, the execution of the PowerShell is recorded, and encoded long string is also recorded in the log. That's the characteristic. The PostC2 is the same. So this is the source code of the batch file. For the execution of the PowerShell is hard-coded. So when you look at the event log, it's similar to Empire. The record is similar to Empire. And next, this is the techniques on PowerShell. So PowerShell, just like a Windows command shell, has the same purposes. You can, as indicator information, I will explain the command line. First, framework having the remote shell is only sliver. As an indicator, the PowerShell execution is different. Output is encoded in UTF-8. No exist option is also given. So it's an interactive mode. For sliver, remote shell functionality is there, but when you execute it, warning shows that it's not recommended. So maybe it's not actually being used. Now, as an event log, so record that I showed in the table is recorded. So this is hard-coded in the source code, and this is output as an indicator directly. And next, command and script execution. So framework having this functionality, there are 3 frameworks having this functionality. The above top 2 routes, random string is being executed by the PowerShell. That's recorded. So these routes has a send file functionality. So it can send and execute the files from the C to servers, and that's when PowerShell is executed. So let's look at the source code. The above portion, it says that the file is created under temp, and then lower portion, cmd.exe to PowerShell is executed from cm.exe, and then that created file is executed. So indicators are as follows. You can see what we just checked is recorded. Here, under temp, this path to the file created under temp is recorded. That's the characteristic. Now let's look at the havoc. So as with the Windows command shell, it starts with the -c, which is an option. So when we look at the source code, in the invariable only the argument is recorded. So in the event log, option -c, the string that starts from the -c is recorded. This command execution with the option is the characteristic of the havoc. Now let's look at the launcher execution. Framework having this functionality, there are 2 of them. First, Empire. Its option that's executed is different from Windows command shell. So this is the string set by default. The specification of Empire is that it uses the listener to execute the execution option. So let's look at the source code. So default setting is that it's in the red portion is hard-coded. In the event log, hard-coded contents is executed by PowerShell, but the encoded string is also recorded. So that's the characteristic. Lastly, let's look at the covenant. So it has this long string that's recorded. When you look at the source code, upper portion has a covenant agent being compressed with the deflate algorithm and encoded using base 64. So in event log, what you just checked is recorded as a long string. So lastly, it calls the data in the memory to execute the file. And to add information, this event log that I'm showing is different from the event log number that I've been showing, so you need to be careful. So these are the executions. So let's look at the persistence techniques now. So registry run key or run key is most often used, except for Havoc, and followed by scheduled task. And there are other techniques too, but it's less than half the time. So WMI event subscription and Windows services require the administrative privileges, so these are also being used. So let's look at the run key features. The characteristic is that all frameworks has a functionality to register to HKCU run key, and each framework use Windows API to doesn't leave the command history to register run key. So you can use the registry key path as an indicator, or registry value name and data type can be used as an indicator. So let's look at the run keys. So if you look at this table, all frameworks can register under HKCU, but Empire and Quasar, HKU run ones, you can register into multiple run keys. And let's look at the registry type and the values. For async RAC and DC RAD, persistent file name are used as a registry value or registry name.
手法としては他の
So here, but also we use it in the other malware, so that it's very usual one in a sense. So next, Covenant, Empire, Marlin, Post C2, and for these types that the naming and text string using updater, so that it seems like the Internet Explorer updater, but when it comes to the other frameworks, so it indicates that it's very unclear that the update what. So the other is also often observed in the other persistent technique, that kind of unclear, ambiguous, and naming is used in the technique. This is one of the uniqueness of this framework. And so this is that the characteristics of the data type of Covenant. So that compared to the other framework, so that this is that different data type as used. So for this data type is that, so for that the registry a register and a value that with the environment and the variable is used. For this is hard coded, so that's why it's used for in case they only use that kind of variables that data type is observed. Next, let me talk about codec. When it comes to codec, so that using that sort of changing the one name, the key 0ADIC, that the name is used for the codec. So next, and let me observe that the registry values, async RAD and DC RADs and app data or the temp, or these are the two paths is available. So this means that's for that at the time of the build, those kind of a persistence setup, the setup is made better now. And so these are the two data, and the APTP data and temp. So that's why once it's registered and actually registered in the registry, so these are that either of these and the pass and the limits. Next, and Empire the Post C2. So when it comes to this, that's now there's the command line we've registered, and this command line is get IT property command is used, and the reading the registry value, and that the red value will be to that will be implemented and executed in the command. So that this Empire Port PC is not only for the run key, but it will be stored and it will read that the data in the registry and execute as a flow. This is the part of the technique. So that actually, and once it would get persistent is that one. So this is the launcher as the persistent that will execute this a launcher that will execute. Then let me look at the Empire. Empire, and this is the data will be stored in the registry and the Empire, but now the default name is used the debug, the default name. So that this is stored the data is now when I analyze this data, and so we observe that this agency source code is described here. So this is the red box portions. This is that user agent is described. This is the agent source code. So this when it comes to launcher to implement to execute this one, so this is the command line is hard coded. So when it comes also the command line for the launchers, and they will use it as an indicator. So next, the post C2. In the case of post C2, there's the wallpaper 555-666-777. Each of these registry name is used to store the data. And so this is the line key source code. And so when I look at this, a wallpaper 777 value comes up, so that in the case of line key, the value is used for the line key, and for this the red box below that is just like the Empire, that this is the launcher command line. So similarly that as for that's the launcher command line used for the indicator. Next, the codec. Then when it comes to the codec, it's described in the JScript, so that the HTA file, and with this it will be executed. So that's the mgcu.sg is used executions that now it's not used as a line key, so this is, we think this itself can be used as an indicator. Next, Marlin. And when it comes to the Marlin, this is the BVS file will executed with the double script. So this is a command line registers, and what unique is that this is all of the data strings is the user for the storage of this script. And you just wonder that the Marlin is was now can be make that the previous file of persistence based on this language, but the agent of Marlin does not have its of the feature to make it the persistent. So that so this is that the info k that this is used for invocate DS at the back door, and this is used for making that the line key persistence. But when it comes to set up this module is different, is the wrong, so that's why, and we check it out. This they fail to make it a persistence. Next, let me talk about schedule tasking. When it comes to schedule, the task is that it's the task.exe and use that to generate the task. So except for that the sliver. So that's why for that, and we must have the log of this, the execution of this, the generation. So other than that, so that the chart assist is used for then generate that so there's no any execution trace in the sliver. For the indicators, for the name of the task, and also for the trigger and operation, these are used. So first of all, this is the name of the task and task name and the trigger. For the async to base up Empire, for there's a post C2 that the line key of you for the name is the same name, and use the line key is used. Just that's like this. The multiple techniques is owned, but the similar name and the data are used and reused. This is one of the uniqueness. So when you look at the trigger, so that other than the Empire, for these are the any user and it executes when they log in. So next, this is the operation, the task contents. So async, the basic lots and the codec. So in the line key, that's all the use in the command line, and line key will be used again. So when it comes to codec, and the line key ADP data PTA file was executed, but now in the scheduled task program data, a file is executed like this. So next is the Empire. When it comes to Empire, that's the registry from the data will be read and will be implemented exactly the same, but over the command will be takes the expression command 1. So next is the post C2. As far as the post is concerned, that just like that the registry now wallpaper 555 registry are read, and the rest about the cursor. When it comes to the cursor and the line key in that any 5 pass can be set up, But in the scheduled task, in the case, use it ADP data where the system started to, or program files, or tree directors are the limited for the directory path. Then let me last about the persistence. Let me talk about WMI event subscription.
こちらのテクニック、管理者権限が必要となるものですので、実際に利用された場合は管理者権限が取られている可能性。
So this requires the administrative privileges. So the characteristics that all frameworks uses the WQM as indicator. Query filters, name and query can be used as indicators. Now let's look at the indicators. For Empire and Quadic, ranking and schedule task and the same names are used. And for PostC2, ranking and schedule task, I upgrade name is being used. For WMI event subscription, the name backup is being used. And when we look at the query, when you look at the covenant query, different from other frameworks, select from query is all in lowercase. That's a characteristic. In source codes, it's written in the capital letters, but when you look at the event log, it's all in lowercase. So when you use the tool to use the method, it's converted to a lowercase in the method being used in a tool. I don't think you would register everything in lowercase often, so I think we can use this as an indicator. So for Empire and Quadic, when we look at their queries, uptime is the condition for execution. So in the red portion, this condition for uptime, this here and this here. For these, when you look at the source code, it's a condition hard-coded in source code, so we can use them as an indicators. And PostC2, and for PostC2, you can change this, but when it becomes, well, you can specify the time for execution. So that's the persistent techniques. And lastly, it's not about attack, but let's look at the indicators of external tools being used. As Takeda mentioned earlier, many frameworks are using external tools as a module to expand its functionalities. In our investigation, mimikatz and reviews are often used. The authentication theft tools are often used. So the use of the tool can be logged. So you can use them as indicators. So let me explain. So for Marlin, for the agent itself, downloads tools from the GitHub and execute them. So that's the execution flow. This downloading the execution of the tool is done by PowerShell. So the PowerShell execution will be recorded in event log. And for some of the tools, for each module, downloading the execution commands are set. This, if setting is wrong, the execution may fail. So that's we've confirmed. So let's look at the invoke mimikatz and look at how PowerShell behaves. In red portion, from the Git pack, invoke mimikatz source code is downloaded, and invoke command expression is used to execute. And for invoke mimikatz, it's functions as a module, so only function is defined. So invoke expression command let is read to execute invoke mimikatz. So that's the flow of the command. So when we look at the process log, the PowerShell source code is being downloaded from the GitHub and loaded with using expression code. Let's look at the seatbelt as an example. To look at the C#, to source code is downloaded, so that's the same. But downloaded source code is stored in app data and you compile using csc.exe and execute. So that's the flow. So file in the app data can be deleted using del command. So that's the flow too. So the PowerShell that I explained earlier as a command line, source code is downloaded from the GitHub and compiled. So that can be used as an indicator. And also to add seatbelt and other C# tools, this -w option for each argument, it's enclosed in the double quotation, so it's not recognized as a -w, so the execution will fail. So let's look at the load PowerShell tools. So as Mali Empire Post2 can use the external PowerShell tools, like invoke mimic as its module, so it's loaded once, and when it's loaded, the tool source code itself can be recorded in event log, so the functions defined in the tool can be used as an indicator. So the name of the functions, there are many functions. We have a list as an appendix. So this is the log of the execution involving minicards. As you can see in the red, application name is defined as the function. So invoke mimicards. This invoke mimicards can be used as an indicator. And lastly, we look at the sliver. So sliver can use the C# too, but it can use the process injection to do the execution. This process injection, in default setting, you create the injection destination to do injection. This injection destination, notepad exec will be created at the destination. And it uses create remote thread for injection. So create remote thread can be monitored. So this is the source code of the sliver process injection. When you look at the source code, you create process on injection target and injection using C# too. So the first indicator is in default setting, notepad exe is created, and that can be used as an indicator. When you look at the command line, notepad.exe is all in small lower letters. It's all hard-coded. That's why it's in lowercase. At the back of the path, there's 2 double quotation. So it's a characteristic. In sliver's process injection, you can set the command line on injection target, but when you execute it without setting that, there will be 2 double quotations. So that's the characteristics. So when we look at the source code, this inject task function for shellcode injection also uses this. This inject task function, when you look inside, it's using create remote thread. For create remote thread injection, I think you can monitor this too. So this is a notepad. So this is log of injection against a notepad process. Notepad.exe, you have the load create function is used. Usually load create function is usually not used in this case, so I believe this can be used as an indicator too. And earlier we saw an indicator. This was system 32 notepad, but actual injector source code window apps notepad exe is created under Windows 11 because the verification environment is Windows 11. So the path was rewritten like this. So let me summarize. So post-exploitation framework was explained, especially for persistence and execution, that is used in very often. That listed in MITRE ATT&CK. And also the indicators, characteristics, similarities are also explained. And going forward, we have a list of indicators. So we would like to create a Sigma rules that can detect these indicators and share such rules with you. And in our investigation, many frameworks are using the external tools. So by analyzing the external tools, we believe that we can identify highly useful indicators. So that's why we would like to do going forward. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Let's move to Q&A. If you have any question about the presentation, please come to the microphone stand. Any question? Thank you for an interesting presentation. I don't have an experience as a SOC, so maybe my question is off the mark, but like you explained, so you created many indicators, and from the perspective of SOCs, I'm sure the information you can obtain is limited. So by using indicators, what kind of malware is infecting can be detected as early as possible. Is that why you would use such indicators? Yes, to classify malware, but the biggest reason is as a SOC, you need to detect what tools are used to be able to respond to. So we like the indicator to be useful in such response and investigation. That's why I talked about these indicators. Thank you for your question. Is there any other question?
皆様よろしいでしょうか。
All right. Anyone else? Any other question? Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of the session. Mr. Takeda, Mr. Furukawa, thank you very much.